Hey everyone, and welcome to the 79th episode of the Liam McCullum Show. I'm very excited for this one. I'm having Lee Deming on again, Mr. Deming to me, and he is my civics teacher from high school. I've had 3 podcasts with him so far. This is the 4th, and we were lucky enough to get one pulled by YouTube. It's still on Spotify and Apple Podcasts if you want to listen to all of them, and we're also on Odyssey. Which is a great decentralized platform that is an alternative to YouTube. So go subscribe to the Lee McCullum Show on all of those platforms. But here's Mr. Deming. How are you doing?
Doing great. How you doing, Lane?
I'm doing really well. I'm excited to have you here. You are here to make an announcement. Do you want to just jump right into it and tell people what you're doing?
Sure. I'm running for the state legislature, House District 55 here, Laurel, and some of the surrounding vicinity. And I'm awfully happy to be able to announce that for the first time on your show.
Well, I'm very appreciative that you wanted to make the announcement on this show. I think that, I mean, our relationship has just been incredible, and I'm very grateful for it. Since high school, I mean, it's been 4 years since I was in your class, and I've learned a lot from you, and I'm very happy to see you running for office. I think that this is something that I foresaw you doing, but I'm not sure that you were willing to necessarily up until this point. And we've had conversations where you seemed pretty unwilling to. You even though I would ask you and say that I think that you should run for office, you you just didn't seem to want to. So I'm wondering what changed. Did anything happen, and kind of what the thought process was making this decision?
Well, quite a bit changed. I Friday was when I decided finally, and filed on Friday, and the deadline was 4 o'clock Monday. And so, very reluctant to jump in, to be honest with you. We've had conversations like this over and over again, and there have been opportunities for me in the past. Um, there's a lot of things, a lot of reasons why I don't really want to run and are reluctant to run. But I do think after watching the news lately and reading up on some of the factors going into the news, I thought I got to take a turn at this. And there's so much to do. It's unbelievable. I've heard people already tell me you need to narrow down what you're looking at to 3 things. Well, 3 things, 3 general things. No, there's a lot more that we need to do, and I can't let somebody else do it for me. That's one of the other things. This is kind of a long-winded explanation, but it works for me. So about 20 years ago in church, I was sitting in church, and we wasn't paying attention, and I saw the people taking up the collection, and I thought, well, those guys are volunteering some time, and they're doing something, and maybe I should. Well, that's where I started really thinking about getting involved in my community and giving back, so to speak. And I've been trying to do that ever since. Well, and I think everybody in this community should take a turn at those kinds of things. And those were the things that I did, commissions and boards or whatever. And this is my turn at the legislature. I'm not going to leave it to somebody else. I'm going to try to do it myself. So that's really kind of motivated me to file for the seat.
I've heard that a lot of freshman legislators are kind of told to not be very ambitious, just kind of get in there and, let things happen and observe. Do you have any issues just on the top of your head? I know you said that you probably haven't limited them to 3, but I mean, while you were watching the news, what major things would you be interested in changing?
Well, I think one of the things is I would like to protect the people from in the district from the lunacy that's going on around us. And you don't have to look any farther than former Governor Bullock, who shut the whole state down for what? Now that everybody is coming out and the conspiracy theories are being proven true, what did we actually lock down for? Why did those small businesses lose everything? Why did those people lose retirement savings. Why did that happen? Well, it turns out that they were wrong. And one of the things I'd like to change is that can never happen again. One person can never, ever have that power over Montanans ever again. And I think that's one of the issues that I'd want to look at.
So why do you think why did you choose to run for the legislature? It was there anything specific about this race that kind of went into that decision?
Well, as you know, Representative Ricky is he's term limited, so he's out. And there was an opening, and I was approached as a possibility to be a candidate. And frankly, I had no, you know me, I had no ambition whatsoever to run for anything. And that opportunity came out, and the circumstances, I just retired, so I've got time, so to speak, and so it just seemed like it was falling into place. So that's how that happened. And the folks who encouraged me, I'm really appreciative that they thought that I had the wherewithal to do this, and I'm hoping to live up to their expectations if I were to win.
Yeah, so you and I have talked about this a lot, that it's not the overzealous people that we want to elect in office, and I know that it really took a lot to convince you. I mean, I've been telling you to run probably for the last 4 years I've known you. So I think that it's great, because I know that even probably right now you're kind of thinking, well, I don't really want to do this, just knowing who you are. But again, I think that people like you are who we need. And people know that I'm associated with the Libertarian Party, but what I've told people is that liberty is what I care about, and so long that the Libertarian Party is a vessel to achieve liberty, I'm going to continue to pursue that. But that doesn't mean that people running in the Republican Party who are promoting liberty shouldn't be defended and celebrated and endorsed.
Right. You as well, as well that I'm connected to the Libertarian Party, and I agree with most of their principles. And so, if I were to be elected, I advance the cause of liberty in with every chance that I can get. And so, the fact that I'm running as a Republican doesn't preclude me from voting for liberty. In fact, I think it's just as a legitimate vehicle as a Libertarian Party to accomplish those things.
Yeah. And you and I have talked about on our previous podcast together, just like how the states and probably specifically the legislatures can kind of, I think the word that we've used before is interpose, that there is somewhat of a relationship that, and subsidiarity, where the specifically the people at the state legislature have a relationship. Oh, can you hear me? I think something going on my end. Okay. Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah, I can't hear you, but looks like you can hear me. Just a second. Say something again, Mr. Deming.
Yeah, you're still feedback there.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Still, is there?
I can't, but it's the same thing.
Okay. Interesting.
I can't imagine it's on my end. What did you do before? Did you change your mic?
Yeah. Well, this is a new mic. I don't know why there would be a problem. How's that?
Same.
Still? Is this better?
Same.
Interesting. Because I changed the source of, so like I'm using a different mic now.
Okay, that's better.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, if it's working now, I was just saying that we've talked about the relationship that we think the state has to the federal government as well as to state power, and you say that you want to protect Laurel from the lunacy. Do you were you focusing more on state issues or federal issues when it came to this decision?
Mostly federal issues, and but I do think that the state has to make some changes in the way the executive manages through executive order. You know, that emergency declaration and the stepping back by the legislature and allowing Governor Bullock to shut this our state down. I don't think that that's a great idea. I think that we need to change that. No one should be able to shut the state down. Believe me, if there's a pandemic, a real pandemic in the future, you're not going to need to lock people down. They're gonna stay home. They're gonna do what it takes to stay safe. You won't have to tell them. You can make some suggestions, recommendations. You know, here's what the state thinks you should do, and then let the individual decide what they're going to do. How many rights were surrendered to this quote unquote emergency that was declared? It's unbelievable the economic and personal damage that's been visited upon our state just by in mistaken. And if you're going to do it, you better be sure that it's the right thing to do. And now we find out that none of those mitigation measures did anything at all. In fact, probably hurt.
And now we're seeing that as this information came out, we're switching to another topic, which is this war in Ukraine. And I think that this moment has been to kind of cover up a lot of that and to I mean, people have short-term memories in this country, unfortunately, and I think that a lot of people have probably already forgot about the last 2 years and the lockdowns. And we were very grateful to be in a state where people were not going to tolerate it, but the government did try, and some counties tried. So I think that the election, this upcoming election, and electing people like you to the legislature will be somewhat of a referendum on those policies. And I really think that people, if they were opposed to what happened over the last 2 years, or if they were affected by it, that they should vote for you and other legislators like you.
Well, I do hope that that is true. I think it is. I think there will be enough people that will contact legislators, and I hope they do, to say we're not going to do this anymore. And so I think it's not necessarily a number one priority, but it's an important priority for me to try to help to fix that, so that I don't care if it's Bullock or Gianforte or whoever it is, they can't have that authority. No government entity should have that authority. I don't care what the emergency is. If you get the information, the truth out to the people, they'll make the right decision. I've got confidence in the people of Montana.
Have you thought about any other issues?
Oh yeah. So you mentioned Ukraine. That Montana soldiers shouldn't be sent to Ukraine or anywhere else for that matter until there's a declaration of war. That to me is one of the big issues. You know, just imagine over the years how many students I had that wound up in the military. Which one of those are we going to send over there to risk their lives, literally? And for what? So I think there's all kinds of misinformation about Ukraine. I think some of the purveyors of that misinformation is the federal government. I think that let's have Congress decide. Again, it's a similar kind of thing. So the governor of Montana can't decide for the people whether or not they're going to shut businesses down. They can't do that. just as the president of the United States can't decide unilaterally to send people into combat. That has to be done by Congress, the people through their elected representatives, not one person. I heard, I don't know, have you been following the polls on support for war in Ukraine?
The only poll I saw was the support for a no-fly list.
Oh, I heard one 2 days ago, and 70% of the people polled said, no, we don't want to be there.
Yeah.
Well, they need to let their legislators know, because the vast majority of the legislature is in favor of, an undeclared war in Ukraine.
I saw another poll that said it was 59% supported a no-fly zone over Ukraine. However, when they were told what a no-fly zone would entail and what would likely come of that, I think the percent dropped down to about 39%. So it's kind of like these euphemisms that are used to kind of cover up the true motives. But for a lot of people who might be wondering, the kind of the question here about what legislators can do and the legislature can do to interpose if Congress tries to send troops to Ukraine. I know the Libertarian Party is trying to pursue Defend the Guard legislation.
Yeah, I absolutely would be in favor. I'd vote for that in a heartbeat. I think Idaho did that, didn't they? Or they were going.
Yeah, I don't know if they passed it, but it was definitely introduced.
Well, that is one of the most important pieces of legislation that I would be happy to put to vote for. If I were to be elected, you bring that one up, I'll vote for it every single time.
Yeah,
it has. That's the only way to do it. That's the only way to manage this ridiculousness. I mean, how many undeclared wars have we fought? How many Americans have been killed? How much treasure? How many people overseas, in the millions, have been killed by our interventions? And what did we gain in Iraq? What did we gain in Yemen? What did we gain in Somalia or Syria? You're going to have to do a better job explaining to me why we need to send people over there and why we need to kill all those people. That's because until that happens, I'm not buying it. So
Yeah.
Defend the Guard Act is something I'd be willing to vote for.
And I think we would have a lot of support for it in the state. They passed so it was the House, they passed almost unanimously a resolution calling on the federal government to end endless wars until they declared in Congress. So I think that there is a lot of fertile ground for something like that here. I think it would just need to be communicated and explained why this is constitutional. I think that is one of the hang-ups with legislation like this is they need a civics teacher to go to Helena and to teach them a little bit about the Constitution and just about federalism. So again, that's another reason why I think that you're a great candidate for this. You've been studying this for years, and you've taught many students who have also helped. I know that like our relationship and what you've told me in the past is that your class also helped teach you. It wasn't just that you were teaching students. The students often taught you. Yeah.
Well, and you're one of the best teachers I've ever had. You were the one I heard of. What's that guy's name now? I can't remember it. Lysander Spooner. I had heard of him, but I didn't know as much as you knew about him. So you taught me about Lysander Spooner. so yeah, I've learned a ton. And one of the reasons why is I get questions from kids and I can't answer them. And I've been doing this for a long time. So I get a question, I have to find out the answer for my own curiosity, but also for my own education. So that every year I learned a ton from the kids.
Yeah, do you have any thoughts about why people from Laurel should vote for you specifically? I know, is there anyone else running in that race? Have Democrats filed or
No Democrat filed. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, no Democrat made it on the by the filing deadline. And there's two other candidates on the Republican side, and I've met one, and I have no idea who the other guy is. So I wouldn't want to necessarily run against those guys. I just want to run my campaign and let them run their campaign, and best man win.
Yeah. Well, that's great, and I'll definitely be supporting you. And I think that you'll have a lot of support. You might not agree with me on that, but I think that your reputation as being a teacher for all of these years, I think it's definitely been great. And there's a community around you, and you have the name recognition, and I think you also have just the knowledge behind it. And I think that you're the best candidate for this, and that's why I've been pushing you for the last couple of years to do this. So I'm very happy that you made this announcement. I got the text from you that you had officially decided, and I was with my friend, and I'm like, wow, like that made me really happy. Like it really did. So, but I'm wondering if there's anything else that you wanted to talk about before we wrap this up. I figured it would be somewhat of a shorter episode, but I'd like to go as long as you have things to say.
Well, before we do anything else, I want to thank you for the kind words there. That's very nice. It means a lot to me for you to say that. So appreciate it. And every time you said it, I said the same thing. No, I'm not doing it. I got other things I want to do. But I do think there's a component of that each citizen should give back to the community what they can. And I can do this. If I were to be elected, I can do this. Give back. So I think that's one of the prime motivations. So I just a couple of more things if you got a minute. So one of the kind of interesting things that I've learned over the past few days is what a nightmare it is to do this. I looked into the paperwork. Now, I don't know how familiar you are with how much money that the Zuckerberg sent into Montana, but it's hundreds of thousands of dollars. Were you aware of that?
No, I had no idea.
Yeah, and it seems like Montana was at the top end of the quote unquote donation money that was being sent into Montana to secretaries of state offices, and then to local county elections. Now, you could argue that those were donations to help with, setup or funding new machines or whatever it is. I don't know what the money was used for, but does that sound a little fishy to you?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Me too. And I was shocked how much money was brought into Montana by those people. I have some figures someplace. If you're curious, I can send some of the figures to you later.
Yeah.
But so
I'll put the information in the description when you send them to me too, if you find it.
So they want to track every dime that you spend as a candidate. So it cost me $15 to file. Well, I have to list that as a campaign expense and tell them where the money came from. $15. But nobody cares. We got hundreds of thousands of dollars from Zuckerberg coming into Montana. That just it boggles the mind. So I don't know if I can do anything about that, but if I were to be elected, I'm going to check into it. I'm going to see what a person can do. But isn't that interesting?
Yeah. Well, so is this money going to candidates specifically, or is it going? So it's going to secretaries of state.
Well, it went to seemed like some money went to. Gosh, I wish I had that information in front of me.
Yeah.
But so there's an organization that all the secretaries of state in the nation belong to, and I don't know if there's a connection to Zuckerberg, but I suspect there might be. Okay, so that's kind of questionable. And then some of the money also went into the counties. Each individual county got money from Mark Zuckerberg. or one of his groups, one of his agencies. I just find that fascinating. I'd like to look into that. And I have been a little bit. There's a group in Montana that's looking into that right now. And they're an election integrity group that want to know, if the elections in Montana were conducted that were fair and not fraudulent. And I'm going to follow that group pretty closely. So anyway,
Great.
I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah, and again, I think that for anyone listening, I know I'm hoping that we can attract a lot of people who know you from Laurel. But even if they don't and they're from out of the state, I think that liberty lovers from all across the country should support local candidates like you that are promoting liberty. So that's why I'm very happy to give you a platform. And there are some people commenting. Someone said, "The money is crazy that it takes to run." Jay
That's
Wilbur.
crazy.
Yeah. And then, could star voting stop the money train in elections? I'm not sure what star voting is. Are you aware of that? Yeah. Well, have you thought a lot about like if people wanted to donate to you, how they would get in contact with you or anything like that?
Yeah, I can't take any donations until I get a bank account to put them in.
Okay.
So, yeah, if eventually I will have that information, I'm going to have a website up. And even though I jumped off of Facebook because of the, deplatforming and all the goofiness they were doing, I'm going to have to get back on and use that as kind of get the word out. Yeah. So I'll have a Facebook page eventually on that.
So you'll make a few social media accounts or something like that.
Yeah.
If you need any help with any of that, just reach out to me. And then if anyone is from Laurel and they want to assist with your campaign, they can get in contact with me or find you on Facebook or something like that and reach out to you.
Right. There's also a email that's listed on when I had to file. They asked to give an email address, so I gave them a Proton mail account. So it's just Lee Deming, LeeDeming @protonmail.com.
Okay, great. Sweet. Well, yeah, if there's anything else you want to talk about, any issues you can think of right now, we can do that. Otherwise, I think we've covered it, and I'm very excited, and I hope people come out to support you. I may or may not be in Laurel this summer, so I might be able to help you campaign.
Yeah, it'd be great. I'd love to see you anyway. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I appreciate it, Liam. That's it's been fun, and I'm awfully glad that you took my class. I remember you remember this conversation we had the spring of your junior year, and you walked up to me and says, "Hey, I'm thinking about being in your class." Do you remember that?
I do. Well, and a little backstory for that, I got in a very heated debate with someone in the hallway about socialism. And I remember someone called me out afterwards and said that I should join speech and debate. And I did, but it was pretty late into the year, and I didn't really enjoy it. I didn't enjoy the format. And I had confused it with your class. When I joined it, I thought it was something like your class. So I asked around, and they're like, "Oh, you're thinking of Mr. Deming's class." And right then, as soon as I heard that, I walked over, and I think it was in the middle of a class period too.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that impressed me too, because, you obviously wanted to be in that class pretty badly.
Yeah.
I don't know, what was I doing out of class? I'd probably get in trouble for that.
Well, I think it was probably your, what were they called? One of the periods.
Oh,
teachers
prep
didn't,
period.
Yeah, prep period. Okay. And yeah, it was my freshman and sophomore year, I was not academically focused at all. So I was very glad to be able to talk with you and get into that class, because based off of my academic record up until that point, I probably shouldn't have been in there.
Well, that's what you said to me. You said, I haven't been doing that great in school,
Yeah.
but I'm interested in your class.
Yeah.
Heck yeah, you can come in. I'm glad we had that conversation.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for coming on and being willing to make the announcement here. I'm I'm also going to upload this on Apple Podcasts too. I'm going to upload this as a podcast, even though it's a shorter one. So anyone who is watching this, please subscribe to me on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Odyssey, wherever else you listen to podcasts. And if you want to get in contact with Mr. Deming and help him out, just find that email that he mentioned earlier. I'll link to it in the description, or get in contact with me on social media, and I'll direct you to him. But thanks for coming on.
Well, thanks for having me, and we'll be talking later.
All right.
Bye.